In the village of Umueze, where the sun rose slowly each morning, lived a young girl named Glory. She was only 22, but anyone who looked into her eyes could see more than just her age. Her eyes were tired, the kind of tired that didn't come from work, but from carrying pain too long. Pain that started 5 years ago when her mother died, and never stopped since. Glory lived in a small mud house at the edge of the village. The roof leaked whenever it rained, and the kitchen was outside, under a crooked tree. Her father, Mr. Thomas, used to be a good man. He was a farmer, tall and strong, and always smiling. But after his wife's death, something in him broke. He started drinking, not once in a while, every day, from morning till night. And when he drank, he became a stranger, loud, angry, and careless. He didn't cry when his wife died. He didn't talk much either. He just picked a bottle and kept drinking. Then one day he brought home a woman and said, "This is my new wife." Her name was Grace, and from the moment she entered that house, Glory's life became a living nightmare. Grace hated Glory for reasons nobody could explain. She would shout at her for breathing too loudly, insult her for the way she walked, and slap her for no reason. She turned Glory into a maid, cook before sunrise, sweep the compound, fetch firewood from the forest, farm from morning till evening, wash clothes, pound yam, and sleep in the kitchen, on a thin mat with rats crawling around her feet. Nobody in the village helped. Some pitied her, but no one spoke up. Everyone feared Mr. Thomas. When he was drunk, his voice could wake the dead, and his cane didn't care who you were. Even the village elders stayed away. But Glory never talked back. Not once. Every day, she just did what she was told. Even when she was hungry, even when she was tired, even when her hands bled from farming. She would only sit under the mango tree at night and stare at the stars, her lips moving in silent prayers. One evening, as the sun was going down and the sky turned orange, an old woman came to visit. Her name was Mama Agbo. She was known in the next village for selling herbs and praying for pregnant women. She had known Glory's mother when they were young, and sometimes she came to check on Glory. But today, her visit was different. Glory was sweeping the compound when Mama Agbo walked in with a calm face and a walking stick in her hand. Grace hissed loudly from the veranda. "What is she doing here again?" Grace said, rolling her eyes. Glory dropped her broom and greeted, "Good evening, Mama." Mama Agbo smiled gently. "My daughter, how are you?" "I'm fine, Mama," Glory replied, though her eyes said something else. Mama Agbo sat on the small bench outside the house and watched her. After a few minutes of silence, she asked quietly, "Are you truly fine?" Glory looked away. Her hands clutched the broom tighter. "Yes, Mama," she said again, her voice softer now. Mama Agbo nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving Glory's face. "Your mother was a good woman. If she could see you now," Grace interrupted loudly from inside. Is that why you came here? To open old wounds? She's fine. We feed her. She has a roof. What else does she want?" Mama Agbo didn't answer. She just stared at Glory for a long time, then stood up and walked away without another word. That night, as Glory washed the plates after dinner, she heard whispers inside the house. Her father was drunk again, his voice slurred. "I'm tired of feeding that girl," he said. "She's not even your blood," Grace lied. "She brings nothing but bad luck," Grace continued. "She refused to marry Chief's son. Now see, he doesn't even greet us again." Mr. Thomas laughed. "Then let her marry that mad boy that always begs near the market. What's his name? Daniel? He looks like he needs a wife." "Perfect," Grace clapped. "Let her go and suffer somewhere else." Glory paused. Her hand froze in the soapy water. She didn't breathe. She didn't blink. She waited, hoping they were joking. But the next morning proved they were not. She was woken by the sound of talking outside. A few villagers stood in the compound watching. Her father wore his best shirt. Grace had tied her jewel. And standing beside them was a man Glory had never spoken to, Daniel. He looked poor. His slippers were old. His trousers had holes. His shirt hung loosely on his body. He stood quietly looking down, saying nothing. Mr. Thomas pointed at him and said loudly, "This is your husband now." Glory blinked, confused. "What?" "You're getting married today." "But I don't know him." "You don't need to," Grace snapped. "You think you're better than everyone?" "Daddy, please." She turned to her father, her voice breaking. "Don't do this to me." "Shut up," he shouted, his eyes red. "You should be lucky someone even wants you." The villagers began whispering. This is shameful. Is that not the Daniel that begs for food? Why would they do this to her?" But no one said anything out loud. Glory looked around. No one came to her rescue. Her knees grew weak. She turned to Mama Agbo, who had just arrived. "Mama, please," she whispered. Mama Agbo looked at her with tears in her eyes. "I tried, my daughter. I tried." The marriage happened that same hour. No church, no music, just an old man who muttered a few lines and two people who barely looked at each other. Glory stood there in her old wrapper, her hands shaking, her heart breaking. She didn't even know when she said yes. She didn't know when the villagers clapped. When it was over, her father handed Daniel a small bag. "Take her and go," he said. Daniel nodded quietly. Glory didn't move. Her father shouted, "Go with your husband!" She picked up a black nylon bag where she had quietly packed her clothes earlier. She hoped, deep in her heart, that maybe someone would stop her. Maybe someone would say, "Don't go." But no one did. Her little half-brother, Sam, stood behind the house, tears running down his face. "Glory!" he cried, waving. She waved back, trying to smile, but her lips couldn't move. Her body followed Daniel out of the compound, but her heart stayed behind. They walked to the junction in silence. The sun was hot. The road was dusty. Nobody spoke. Glory didn't look at him. He didn't look at her. When they reached the roadside, a small kiki passed. Daniel stopped it and helped her enter. The journey to the next town was long. They passed villages, trees, and markets. Glory sat by the window staring outside. She couldn't believe what had just happened. She had lived in that house all her life. She had suffered in it. But still, it was her home. And now she was leaving it with a stranger. Tears dropped from her eyes. She wiped them quickly. Daniel noticed but didn't say anything. He just looked ahead, lost in his thoughts. When they reached the town, it was almost evening. The place looked bigger than Umuwe's. There were shops, houses made of blocks, cars on the road, and people in a hurry. Glory held her bag tightly, afraid to get lost. Daniel stopped in front of a small house with a zinc roof and a brown gate. He knocked. A woman opened and smiled. "You're back," she said. Daniel nodded. "Thank you, Ma." They entered a small compound. The house had 3 rooms. The floors were clean. The air smelled of soap and food. "This is where we'll stay," Daniel said softly. Glory looked around. It wasn't fancy, but it felt peaceful. There was no shouting, no cane, no insults. He showed her a small room with a mattress, a curtain, and a fan that worked sometimes. "You can sleep here," he said. "I'll sleep in the sitting room." She looked at him properly for the first time. His eyes were tired like hers, but there was something gentle about them. He didn't smile much, but he didn't shout either. Glory dropped her bag and sat on the bed. For the first time in her life, She felt silence that didn't scare her. And even though she didn't understand what was happening, something inside her whispered, "You are safe." Glory sat on the bed in the small room Daniel showed her. The mattress was thin, but clean. The curtain was faded, but it moved gently with the breeze. The window was open, and the sounds of town life floated in. Motorcycles zooming past, children laughing somewhere, a woman selling fried yam by the road. She didn't speak. She couldn't. Her chest still felt heavy from everything that had happened that morning. It didn't feel real yet. Her hands were resting on her lap, and her fingers kept pulling at the corner of her wrapper. Daniel stood at the door, watching her silently. He didn't enter the room. He didn't try to touch her or talk too much. He just said quietly, "If you need anything, I'm outside." She nodded slowly, still not meeting his eyes. He walked away. After a while, Glory stood up and closed the door gently. She didn't lock it. She just sat back on the bed and looked around. There was a small bag of clothes by the corner, one bulb hanging from the ceiling, and a tiny table near the window with an old Bible on it. She lay down and stared at the ceiling. Her mind was full, too full. Her body was tired, but sleep wouldn't come. She kept hearing her father's voice. "You should be lucky someone even wants you." She kept seeing Sam's little hand waving as she walked away. The next morning, she woke up to the sound of a spoon hitting a plate. The smell of something warm filled the air. It wasn't much, but it smelled like food. She sat up slowly, rubbed her eyes, and listened. Then she heard a voice, Daniel's voice, speaking softly. "You should eat something today. You didn't eat yesterday." He was talking to her. She opened the door and stepped out. Daniel was sitting in the small parlor, placing a bowl of hot pap and a few pieces of akara on the table. "Good morning," she said, her voice quiet. He looked up and gave a small nod. "Morning." She sat down, unsure of what to do. Daniel pushed the plate toward her. "Please eat." Glory looked at the food, then looked at him. "I didn't cook this," she said. "I know," he replied. "I bought it from the woman across the street." She blinked. "You used your money?" "Yes." She wanted to say more, but she just picked up the spoon and started eating slowly. The pap was hot and smooth. The akara was crunchy. It felt strange eating without being shouted at. No one slapped her hand. No one complained about how fast or slow she ate. It was just, peaceful. After a few minutes of silence, Daniel spoke again. "I'll be going out today. I do some small work for a carpenter around the corner. I carry wood, clean tools, just small things." She nodded. "If you need anything, you can go to Mama Nkechi next door. She's kind." Glory looked at him. "You're not angry?" He frowned slightly. "Angry? About what?" "About me," she said. "You were forced to marry me." Daniel looked surprised. "You think I'm angry about that?" She nodded slowly. He shook his head. "I'm not angry." "But you didn't say anything at the wedding. You didn't even look at me." Daniel rubbed his palm on his trousers and looked down for a moment before speaking. "That day was hard for me too. I didn't know your people were going to do it like that. I came to collect something I was owed. Your father owed me. I worked on his farm for weeks. I didn't ask for much, just small money. Then that morning, he said instead of money, I should take you." Glory's spoon paused in her hand. "I was shocked," he continued. "But when I looked at you, you looked more shocked than I was. I didn't want to take you like that. I even tried to tell him no. But he laughed and said, 'You were useless to him.'" Glory's throat tightened. Her eyes filled with tears. Daniel raised a hand gently. Please don't cry. I'm not telling you this to hurt you. She wiped her eyes quickly and dropped her spoon. She wasn't used to anyone speaking gently to her. It made her chest feel warm and strange. I told myself, Daniel went on, if I take you, I won't treat you badly. I don't know you well, but I saw your eyes that day. You looked like someone who's been through too much. Glory covered her face with both hands. I don't know why my life is like this. Daniel stood up, picked the empty plate, and walked to the kitchen. He didn't say anything else. She could hear the sound of water running as he washed the plate. After a while, he came back and picked up his small bag. I'll be back by evening, he said. You can rest? She nodded. Thank you. He smiled faintly. You don't have to thank me. You deserve peace, too. Then he left. That whole day, Glory stayed inside the room. She sat by the window and watched people pass by. She saw children going to school, women selling fruits, a man pushing a wheelbarrow filled with oranges. It was a busy town, not like the quiet village she came from. Her fingers moved slowly over the Bible on the table. She opened it, turned a few pages, and stopped at the part her mother used to read out loud. Come to me, all who are weary. She read it over and over, tears dropping on the page. When Daniel returned that evening, he looked tired. His clothes were dusty, and his hands had tiny cuts. You're back, she said, standing from the chair. He nodded. Yes. Sorry I'm late. It's okay, she said. Are you hurt? Just small scratches. Nothing serious. She noticed the way he walked, his steps slow, one leg dragging a little behind. She hadn't noticed it before. Are you limping? She asked. He paused. Old injury. Long story. She didn't ask more. That night he brought home a small loaf of bread and 2 eggs. He boiled the eggs, sliced the bread, and placed everything on the table. You should eat, he said. What about you? She asked. I'm fine. You need it more. She looked at him again. Really looked this time. He wasn't handsome in the way people talk about in stories. But there was something soft about him. Something kind. Days passed like this. Slowly. Daniel would wake up early, sweep the small compound, take a quick bath and leave for work. Glory would sweep the room, wash her clothes, and walk to the small kiosk nearby to buy water. She didn't have friends. She didn't talk much, but people around began to notice her. Is that Daniel's wife? A woman asked one day. She's too fine for him, another said. She looks quiet, like she's seen pain, Mama and Nkechi whispered. One afternoon, Daniel came back with a small nylon bag. He dropped it on the table and smiled. I got you something. Glory opened the bag slowly. It was a light blue gown, simple but neat. For me? She asked, her eyes wide. Yes, Daniel said. I saw it at the market. Thought you'd like it. Glory touched the cloth gently. She hadn't received a gift in years. Thank you, she whispered. You're welcome. She held the gown to her chest and turned away so he wouldn't see the tears in her eyes. Later that week it rained. The sky turned dark, and thunder rolled like angry drums. Glory ran outside to bring in their clothes from the line. As she bent to collect the clothes, her eyes caught Daniel standing in the rain, talking to someone under an umbrella. The person was well-dressed, holding a file. Glory hid behind the curtain and listened. Sir, we still need a signature, the man was saying. Not yet, Daniel replied. I'm not ready. But the board is waiting. I said not yet. The man looked worried but nodded. Okay, sir. Sir? Glory frowned. When the man left, Daniel stood in the rain for a moment, his head bowed, water running down his face. He looked sad. That night she asked him, Who was that man? Just someone from town, he said. It's nothing. But she didn't believe him. A few days later, she saw him counting money under the small lantern in the sitting room. Not small change, real money. Thousands. When he saw her, he quickly pushed it into an envelope. You saw that? He asked. She nodded. Is that for your carpenter work? He paused. Yes, he said slowly. Something like that. She wanted to ask more, but something told her not to. Not yet. Instead, she said, You're not like other men. He looked surprised. Why do you say that? You don't shout. You don't beat. You listen. Daniel sat down on the floor and leaned against the wall. My father used to beat my mother, he said. Every night. I used to hide under the table. I promised myself I'd never be like him. Glory walked over and sat beside him. You've kept your promise, she said quietly. For a long time they didn't speak. The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the fan turning slowly above them. Then Daniel looked at her. Are you happy here? She didn't answer immediately. I'm not happy, she said, but I'm peaceful. And for now, that's enough. Daniel nodded slowly. And that was how their strange marriage began to feel less like punishment and more like something else. Something quiet. Something calm. Something that felt like healing. It had been almost a month since Glory left Umuez and came to live with Daniel in the small town. The days had started to feel normal. Not happy exactly, but calm. Every morning Daniel went to work. Every evening he came back with bread or rice. They didn't talk too much, but they talked more than before. Glory had stopped jumping at loud noises. She stopped hiding her plate like someone was going to collect it from her. For the first time in her life, she slept with both eyes closed. No cane, no shouting, no insults, just quiet. But one thing kept pulling at her heart. Daniel. He was kind. He listened. He never raised his voice. He made her laugh sometimes, even without trying. But there was something strange about him, something she didn't understand. It started with the money. Then the way people spoke to him. Then the way he avoided certain questions. One Saturday morning, she woke up early and found Daniel already outside, sweeping the compound. The sun had not fully risen, but he was sweating. He had been sweeping since before dawn. You're up early, she said. He looked at her and smiled. I like the quiet in the morning. Helps me think. She nodded and sat on the small bench beside the wall. They sat in silence for a while. Then she asked, Daniel, can I ask you something? He looked at her. Of course. Are you really just a carpenter's assistant? Daniel paused. He didn't speak for a few seconds. Then he said, Why do you ask? I don't know, she replied. It's just, something doesn't feel right. He sat down beside her. What doesn't feel right? She looked at her hands. You dress like a poor man, but you act like someone who's not used to suffering. Daniel laughed lightly. What does that even mean? You don't rush food. You don't shout when you're stressed. You read the newspaper every evening. You even iron your clothes with care. He smiled again. That's not a crime, is it? No, she said. But poor people don't have time to be gentle. Daniel went quiet. He looked up at the sky, then turned to her. Maybe not all poor people are the same. She looked at him closely. You're hiding something? Daniel stood up and brushed dust off his trousers. Everyone is hiding something, Glory. She didn't reply. She just watched him as he walked back into the house. That evening, something strange happened. A car stopped in front of their gate. It wasn't like the small cars that drove around town. This one was long and black, with dark windows and shiny tires. the kind of car only rich people owned. Glory stood behind the curtain and peeked outside. A man in a suit stepped out of the car and knocked on the gate. Daniel came out and opened it. The man removed his cap and bowed slightly. Bowed. "Sir," he said, we've been looking for you." "Lower your voice," Daniel said quickly. "You shouldn't have come here." "We were worried," the man continued. "The board is waiting. They say you've been gone too long." "I'll return when I'm ready," Daniel said, his voice calm but firm. "Your uncle wants an answer." Daniel sighed. "Tell him I said soon." The man nodded. "Yes, sir." Then he entered the car and left. Glory stood there, frozen. She had heard everything. "Sir? Board? Uncle?" Her heart was beating fast. She stepped back slowly and sat on the bed. Daniel walked in a few minutes later. He looked at her, then looked away. "You heard everything, didn't you?" he asked. She nodded slowly. He dropped his bag on the table and sat down. "I didn't want you to find out like that." "Who are you?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I'm still Daniel," he said. "No, you're not. Poor Daniel doesn't have men in suits calling him sir. Poor Daniel doesn't have a board waiting for him." Daniel looked at her, his eyes tired. "Can you just trust me?" She shook her head. "Not if I don't know the truth." He stood up and paced the room slowly. "It's not that I don't want to tell you, I just needed time." "Time for what?" "To know who you are," he said. "To see if you were different." "Different from what?" she asked. Daniel walked to the window and pulled the curtain aside. "Every woman I've met cared about one thing: money. My father warned me before he died. He said, 'Don't marry someone who loves your name. Marry someone who sees your heart.' So I left everything. I left the city, the cars, the clothes, the office. I came here to live a different life." Glory sat very still. Her mouth felt dry. "So all this was a test?" He turned to her. Number it became something else. "I didn't expect to care about you." Her eyes filled with tears again. "You tricked me?" "I didn't mean to," he said quickly. "I was angry when your father gave you to me. I didn't plan it. But when I saw how broken you were, I wanted to protect you. That's all." Glory stood up. "Do you even love me?" Daniel didn't answer right away. He stepped closer. "I do. I didn't know when it started. Maybe it was when I saw you feeding the stray cat behind the house. Maybe it was when you folded my shirts without being asked. Or maybe it was the first night you smiled at me." She shook her head. "I don't know what to believe." Daniel looked her straight in the eyes. "Believe this. I'm not playing with you." She turned away. "I need to think." He nodded. "Take all the time you need." The next few days were quiet. Glory didn't talk much. She cooked, cleaned, and answered questions with only one word. Daniel didn't force conversation either. He gave her space. But every evening, he still brought home food. He still fixed the light bulb when it went off. He still made sure the door was locked before sleeping. One night, there was heavy rain. Thunder cracked across the sky like a whip. The roof rattled and water leaked through a corner. Glory stood up with a bowl and placed it under the leak. Daniel watched her from the doorway. "Sorry, I should have fixed that earlier." She gave a small smile. "It's not as bad as the kitchen back home." He stepped closer. "You still think about that place?" She nodded. "Sometimes, but not in a good way." He sat down. "Do you miss anyone from there?" She thought for a second. "Just Sam, my little brother." They sat together in the candlelight, listening to the rain. "I've been thinking too," she said. He turned to her. "I believe you didn't mean to hurt me," she said softly. "But I need to know, how rich are you really?" Daniel laughed, surprised by the question. Why does it matter? Because, she said, if I'm going to sit beside you when the truth comes out, I need to know what I'm sitting beside. He nodded. I own a company. It's a tech business. We build software, sell devices, run online systems. My father started it. When he died, everything came to me. I'm the only child. Glory blinked. So you're a billionaire? He looked away. Something like that. She stood up and paced the room. This is too much. Daniel stood too. You can leave if you want. I'll understand. You didn't ask for this life. She looked at him sharply. I didn't ask for any of this, but I stayed. Even when my father threw me away like garbage, I stayed. Even when I thought you were just a poor man, I stayed. Daniel walked closer, and I'll never forget that. Glory sighed. So what now? Now, Daniel said, I tell the board I'm coming back. But only if you'll come with me. She raised her eyes to his. As what? Your wife. As everything, he said. My wife. My partner. My peace. Glory stared at him. She didn't answer right away, but a small part of her, deep down, began to believe again. Maybe love wasn't meant to come from perfect people. Maybe it came from broken ones who healed each other slowly. That night she couldn't sleep. Her mind was full. She stood by the window, watching the moon. The light touched her face gently. She thought of her mother, of Sam, of the old house, of the insults, of the pain. Then she thought of Daniel, quiet, patient, full of secrets, but also full of something else. Love. And as she lay back on the mattress, pulling the wrapper up to her chest, she whispered one prayer. God, if this is your plan, don't let him change. The next morning, Daniel woke up before the sun, like always. But this time, he didn't go to work. He didn't wear his old brown shirt or his worn-out slippers. Instead, he wore a dark blue shirt that Glory had never seen before. He brushed his hair carefully, wore clean black trousers, and even sprayed a little perfume. Glory came out of the room, rubbing her eyes. You're not going to work today, she asked. No, he said, buttoning his shirt. Not that kind of work. She watched him for a few seconds. You look different. Daniel looked at her. I want to take you somewhere today. Where? She asked, surprised. Somewhere important. She raised her eyebrows. Is it far? Not too far, he said. But I want you to dress nicely. Glory looked down at herself. She was still in her wrapper. He smiled. Wear the blue gown I gave you. Her heart beat faster. Daniel, what is this about? He walked closer and held her hands gently. Just trust me. Today is the day I want to show you everything. She looked into his eyes. There was something calm and serious about the way he spoke. She nodded slowly. Okay. They both got ready in silence. Glory wore the blue gown. She brushed her hair and tied it back neatly. It was the first time she felt nervous standing beside him. When they stepped outside, a black SUV was waiting at the gate. Glory stopped. Whose car is that? Daniel walked to the door and opened it for her. Ours. She didn't move. Daniel, she said quietly, this doesn't feel real. He smiled. I know, but it is. She stepped into the car. It was soft inside, like sitting on a cushion. The seats smelled like leather and flowers. The driver was already waiting, a young man in a white shirt and black trousers. Good morning, sir, the driver said. Morning, Emeka, Daniel replied. Glory turned to look at Daniel slowly. He called you sir. Daniel didn't reply. He just looked out the window as the car started moving. The ride was quiet. Glory held her hands tightly on her lap. Her eyes kept moving from the road to Daniel's face. She wanted to ask questions, but her mouth felt heavy. They passed small shops, markets, and schools. Then the roads got smoother. Bigger buildings started to appear. Cleaner streets. Fewer people walking barefoot. The houses had fences and painted walls. After almost 30 minutes, the car turned into a quiet street lined with flowers and streetlights. At the end of the road was a tall black gate with golden lines on it. The gate was wide and looked like something from a film. The car stopped. Glory's mouth opened slowly. "Where are we?" Daniel smiled and opened the door. "Come." She stepped out of the car. The air smelled different, fresh and clean. The compound was quiet. Birds sang in the trees. She heard water running somewhere. Daniel knocked. A man in uniform opened the gate and stepped back quickly. "Welcome back, sir." Daniel nodded. "Thank you." Glory stood frozen. Her feet refused to move. Daniel turned to her. "Are you ready?" She didn't answer. He reached out and gently held her hand. "Come." They stepped into the compound. Glory gasped. The ground was tiled. There were flower beds beside the walkway. A small fountain was flowing in one corner. The house in front of them was big. 2 floors, wide windows, white walls, and a brown roof. It looked like a place for kings. Glory stopped walking. "Daniel," she whispered, is this where you live?" He turned to her. "Yes. This is my real home." She shook her head slowly. "I don't understand." He looked at her. "I told you I would explain everything. This is where I used to live, before I left to find peace. Before I met you." She covered her mouth with her hand. Her eyes were wide. "I left all of this," Daniel continued, "to see if anyone could love me without this." They walked past the main house and reached another smaller building at the back. Even the smaller house looked nicer than anything she had ever seen. There was a white couch in the front room, a clean table, and a large TV on the wall. A woman came in and bowed slightly. "Welcome, sir." Ma Glory turned quickly. "She's talking to me?" Daniel laughed softly. "Yes, you are the Ma now." Glory sat down slowly on the couch. Her hands were shaking. She looked around the room again. Everything looked too expensive to touch. Daniel knelt down in front of her. "Glory," he said. She looked into his eyes. "I brought you here because I want you to know the full truth," he said. "My father built a company. When he passed, everything came to me. But I didn't want it at first. I didn't know who to trust. Everyone wanted money. Even my cousins tried to take over the company. People smiled at me only because I was rich." She blinked. Her throat felt dry. "So I left," he continued. "I changed my clothes. I disappeared. I wanted to see what it felt like to be nobody. That's when I started doing small jobs. That's how I ended up in your village." She nodded slowly. "So when you came to our house?" "I came to collect my money," he said. "Your father promised to pay me for the farm work. But when I asked, he gave me you instead." Glory stood up slowly. "I remember." "I wanted to say no," Daniel said. "But when I saw the way they treated you, something in me changed. I didn't want to walk away." Glory turned away. Her eyes were filling with tears. Daniel stood too. "I didn't know I would fall in love, but I did." She turned back to him. "So all this time I was married to a billionaire and didn't know?" "Yes," he said, "but I didn't want to be a billionaire around you. I wanted to be Daniel. Just Daniel." She looked at him. "Do you still want to be just Daniel?" He stepped closer. "I want to be whoever you need me to be." Glory let out a shaky breath. "You should have told me." "I was afraid you'd leave," he said. "I almost did," she replied. "But I stayed because you were kind." He smiled. And now you know everything. She wiped her eyes. So what happens now? I want to take you inside the big house, he said. I want to show you your new room. I want to show you where you belong. I don't belong in a place like this, she said. Daniel frowned. Why not? I came from dust, she whispered. From pain. He held her hands. And that's what makes you gold. She cried. Not because she was sad, but because her heart couldn't understand how her life had changed so fast. He pulled her into a hug. You're not alone anymore. They walked back to the main house. The doors opened before they even reached them. Inside, the floors shined like mirrors. The chandelier in the ceiling sparkled. The living room had soft chairs, glass tables, and tall curtains. Glory looked around like a lost child. Is this real? Daniel smiled. Yes, and it's all yours too. He showed her a room upstairs. It had a big bed with white sheets, a dressing mirror, and a small fridge by the wall. This is your room now, he said. She looked at him. You're serious? He nodded. You deserve more than this. But let's start here. He left her alone for a while. Glory sat on the bed and touched the sheets. They were soft like clouds. She looked at the ceiling, the lights, the neat walls. Then she stood and walked to the window. From there she could see the compound, the flowers, the small fountain. Her eyes watered again. I'm no longer a slave, she whispered. That evening, Daniel invited a few close staff members for dinner. The table was set in the garden. There were lights hanging on strings, gentle music playing, and the smell of jollof rice in the air. Glory sat beside Daniel, still quiet, still shy. But her eyes were brighter now. Her back was straighter. She felt different. Daniel stood up and raised a glass. Everyone, he said, this is my wife. She may not look like the women you see on TV, but she is stronger than all of them. She is the reason I came back. She is the reason I can smile again. People clapped. Some smiled. Some bowed. Glory sat still, looking down. When Daniel sat beside her, she whispered, Thank you. For what? He asked. For seeing me, she said. For choosing me. I didn't choose you, he said softly. You saved me. That night, as they walked back into the house, Glory stopped him at the stairs. I want to know everything now, she said. Everything you were afraid to tell me. He looked at her and nodded. Then I'll tell you everything. Tomorrow, I'll show you the company, the workers, the life I left behind. And after that, she asked. He smiled. After that, we start again, together. She nodded. For the first time in her life, she felt like she wasn't just living, she was beginning. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a like and subscribe. Here's another interesting story to watch. Click to watch now.